program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome to First Issues. The year is coming to a close, ushering in the festive season, which for a lot of shops is a time for year-end sales and bargains. This presents the opportunity for people to make bulk purchases, especially in food items and household parcels for Bomeba Metelo, people with large families meeting relatives for Christmas, and supermarkets that retail these goods. However, this time of year is also notorious for making purchasing mistakes, as some of these items are close to expiring or already past their use-by date. The price markdowns are not necessarily worth the hype, and some of the goods are not at all what they were marked to be. So then, how can you protect yourself from making these mistakes? And if you do find yourself in any of these predicaments, what should be your next course of action? Consumer rights activist at the Consumer Watchdog Kate Harriman joined us on Zoom to give us her advice.
The first question to ask yourself is, are you actually going to use the item that you're buying in bulk? So it might seem a good idea at the time, but if you're going to go and buy, 25 kgs of rice, are you actually going to use it and use it before the expiry date? So I think one of the first things that I would look for when buying in bulk is the expiry date. If it's anything perishable, and by perishable I mean something like meat or cheese or bread or rice, will you be able to consume it before the date that it's due to expire and go off? The second thing I would look for is it actually cheaper? So think about how difficult it is to move something. I was looking online this morning at an online shopping site and looking at sugar, and the difference in price between 5 kgs of sugar and 12 was a matter of tebi. So yes, you can buy 12.5 kg and maybe save a couple of pula, but is it actually worth it if you've got to transport 12.5 kgs in one go using public transport? Is it worth the hassle? So I think those are the things to consider.
How can we make sure that we don't make the most common mistakes during this time, especially, buying expired goods or goods that are about to expire, being duped into sales, and having to buy faulty marketed goods?
The start point is to take a step back and take a deep breath. We all tend to go crazy in November and December. We have Black Friday sales coming up, and then we have the whole Christmas and festive season coming up. The start point is always to set yourself a budget. So can you afford what you're going to go out and spend? Have you thought about it and have you budgeted for it? So that's the start point, I think. The second point is, for the first time in our nation's history, we actually have laws now around false advertising. So companies now have a legal responsibility to you as a consumer to make sure when they advertise that something's on sale that it is indeed a reduced price, and they're not allowed to do what they call bait advertising, i.e. say, come and buy and it's X% cheaper, and you get to the store only to find that the offer was only for one day 2 weeks ago, or that they only had 5 of the item in stock. So if a company's now going to say to you, come and buy and we're giving you a 20% discount, they need to say what period that's for. So the offer ends in 2 weeks' time. And they also, if there's a limited supply, they need to say that in the advertisement. So come and buy a television and there's 25% off, but we've only got 5 in stock. So they must make it clear what the terms and conditions are of the advertisement. And there's some hefty fines now. Under the Consumer Protection Act, you can actually get fined, I think it's up to 50,000 pula, and or, this is my favourite bit, 3 years in jail for false advertising. So stores must make sure that they advertise to you correctly.
Okay. But what if I find that I've bought these goods under these dubious circumstances? What should be my next course of action?
Your first course of action, it should be to make sure you understand what the law says before you do anything. So if you want advice on that, you can join the Consumer Watchdog Facebook group, and we're there to help. You can give us a call. We'll explain what the law actually says. But I think it's really important that consumers stand up for their rights and actually go back to a store and make a formal complaint if they feel that they've been tricked or duped in any way. But I think the start point always is, as a consumer, make sure you know what your rights are before you go and buy. You know, the power that we have as consumers is the money in our pocket. That's what firms are fighting hard for. So we need to make sure that before we hand over our power, i.e. hand over our money, we've actually understood what the rules are.
But you speak of rights, and with every right, there's a responsibility. So as a consumer, what are my responsibilities?
As a consumer, we have a responsibility to behave responsibly and to be reasonable in our demands. You know, everyone says, oh, the customer's always right. I don't actually believe the customer's always right. Sometimes the customer is completely and utterly wrong. So I think be reasonable about what you're expecting stores to do, particularly during the current circumstances of COVID. You know, sometimes there are delays on getting stock in because of delivery and transport issues. And I should say, just going back to the issue about buying in bulk, we should be looking to go shopping less frequently. So it might be an idea to buy things in bulk so that you limit the number of times that you go to the shops. So you limit your potential risk of exposure to COVID. So I think that is something that as consumers we should be thinking about. But I think as consumers, we have a responsibility to make sure we know what we're doing. I don't think ignorance is always a defence. It certainly isn't a defence in law. So before you make an important purchase, make sure you know what your rights are. So coming up to Christmas, for example, do you have the right to return an item if you no longer want it? So you bought someone a gift and you find that they've already got that pair of shoes, or you bought the wrong size. So before you buy it, find out, can I bring it back with the receipt if I find that the gift isn't wanted or it's the wrong size or whatever? Find out before you hand over your money.